Hello. For this latest instalment of TWC Soundbites, I'm delighted to say that I've been joined today by Greg Suszczenia, who is Joint Managing Director of Parfetts. Greg, thank you so much for joining me.
Hiya, nice to join you. Nice to see you. Even if it's a meeting this way, it's still nice to have a face-to-face meeting.
Fabulous, thank you. So clearly I'm desperate to hear about what's been going on in Parfetts. Everybody I speak to across the industry is kind of trying to pick up snippets of what it's like out in depots, and we're all trapped in our home offices and can't see what's going on. So you were a key person for me in terms of trying to tell us where things are at. So could you paint a picture for me of what's been going on in the depots over the last 4 to 5 weeks?
Yeah, best way for me to start is I'm at the Sheffield branch right now. I will talk you through what it's like to arrive at the branch and what you see as a customer or a visitor. To go right back regarding the 4 to 5 weeks, it's obviously built up quite strongly the week before they close the on-trade. So I think at the beginning of that week, they advised people not to go to pubs and restaurants. It really started to build that week. Then the Friday night, it just went ballistic, and it's kind of never stopped since. So as soon as he announced it on the Friday, everybody was in that weekend, including the directors. We were just filling up the shelves from Friday night, Saturday, a little bit of respite on Sunday, and it's never honestly stopped since. So fast forward to now, last week we traded up 100%, excluding cigarettes. That's not the first time we've done that. We've commonly up 80, 100, and this will be a common theme. If we had the supply we wanted, that would be probably 200%. So yeah, in terms of if you were to come, and I'm pleased to be given the chance to tell you what it's like, because it is quite incredible, really. If you've been in the industry for 25 odd years, if you come to one of our branches, every week is like a trade week and more. So you'll walk into a full car park. Sheffield today, you'll come into reception and there are tables in front of the reception. There are social distancing, very professional stuff all over the depot. There are floor vinyls. In Sheffield, there is a flow system because we were finding obviously quite a pinch point once people got to the checkouts. Very importantly for us, from day one, we've had external professional security in each branch. So we have two security people in each of them, which we either use in the car park or at the checkouts. They've been really helpful for the staff, and they've kept good order in the branches. Canteen is closed here to customers. It's open to staff. Obviously, they can only go one at a table at a time. You will see lots of gaps, even now, as bad as ever, to be honest, in the grocery areas. Occasionally, if you walked in and 2 or 3 weeks ago, if you'd come and a trunk of toilet rolls would turn up, you would have seen madness, which was quite hard to enforce social distancing at that point. It's still like that now for certain lines. We got some flour delivered last week. I never thought in my career, you'd be allocating cases of flour. So yeah, so everywhere is, I would even, paranoia about maintaining social distancing and communicating that to the customers. It's all right telling the staff, we've got to make sure the customers adhere to it too. And you'll see 30–40% of people wearing masks, both staff and customers. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what it's like.
So the kind of anecdotes we've been hearing about sort of people scrapping over cases of toilet rolls and being desperate for the latest case of flour is certainly not wide of the mark then.
No, not at all. I'd like to think we don't have scrapping. That was quite early on. We brought in security even before the on-trade closed, because I could just sense the mood changing. We spoke quickly as directors and we brought someone in. Our staff aren't paid enough to verbal abuse. It's hard to avoid, but they're certainly not. We didn't want to see anything physical in the branches. But yeah, so you do have those moments when certain stock arrives, and that hasn't gone away because there are still quite a lot of important pieces of stock missing. So when we do finally get some, and we want to try and allocate and be fair with it. So it's difficult.
So in terms of, obviously, if I go to Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, I'm queuing outside to get in. How long is it taking a retailer to get through and do their shop? I'm guessing it is actually taking them hours longer than normal as well, to be fair.
No, we don't need, there's no queuing system for people to get into the branch. We've got different size branches, so we have had to implement that sometimes at a depot like Anfield. You know, we're not like a supermarket. We never have that many people in, and once they're in, they're dissipated around the branch. The hard part is getting them through the checkouts. But in some respects, we're more efficient at the checkouts than we've ever been because of all the things that we're doing. I would say, if anything slows your shop down, is just, you know, trying to find product that might not be there, etc., choosing an alternative product. But no, we're a different business to a supermarket.
And have you, I know you do deliver, so have you been able to maintain deliveries out, or have you had to turn that off through this pandemic?
No, we've maintained. We took, you know, it wobbled in the first 2, possibly 3 weeks. Probably not even that. We work closely with our customers. As you know, we traditionally do midnight for next day delivery. That had to go for various periods, but to be honest, our delivery's gone up now. So as we managed to diffuse more staff into the business, because, well, people were, you know, there's actually some good staff out there to get. We gave full license to the managers to recruit the staff that they needed. That kept our vehicles on the road, kept us filling up. So we're actually growing the delivered. Like last week, we had a record at Sheffield at £1 million worth of delivered on top of a depot, taking £1.5 million. We just had a record at Aintree. We've had a record at Summercoats. So we've managed to turn what started off as a negative into a strong positive.
Amazing. And how are you balancing servicing your Go Local fascia retailers versus your independent customers? I mean, that's got to be a tricky balancing act.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think at first we didn't balance it particularly well, and purely because of the pandemonium that was going on. And I think to some degree, when stock was arriving and going out so quickly, you're kind of fearful of, I think, the branches of holding stock back for customers. So eventually we've taken control of that, and the customers have appreciated it. So we now have WhatsApp groups for the fasciated customers, and we'll tell them that it's arrived and it's coming, etc., etc. So yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge at first, purely just through the rarity of the speed that stock was going out of the business.
You kind of have to learn as you go as well. It's something that one's not used to having to deal with, I guess.
In some respects, that's one of the things I'm kind of proudest of as always. There's no copybook for something like this. We have a very flat structure, both at a very senior level, at a branch level. Very quickly, we as a board decided to meet 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and more if we needed to. We have a director's WhatsApp. We visit all the branches regularly. If we think something needs to be done, like I said about the security, we'll talk amongst ourselves, and if we decide it's right, then we act on it straight away. So yeah, and another big one that we did very early on, we brought a bonus forward that we'd pay in July. We paid it in the first week of April. So when a lot of our staff had things to worry about, we tried to mitigate, money being one of them. When the lockdowns came in, straight away, there was some of our staff that could actually work from home, which we managed to facilitate. And once again, you had to act quite quickly on that. But then you're asking an awful lot of staff to stay in work. So immediately we came up with a lockdown bonus, and we pay everybody an extra £100 a week for those that need to stay in the business. And I think that's what I'm trying to give you there. It's an example of exactly, you're dead right. You have to be really thinking on your feet at a time like this, and close to the reality of the business.
Yeah, and I guess the other challenge is, I mean, we mentioned this before we started, I think, but it's really easy to focus on the operational challenges of this, but the reality is people are risking their lives coming to work. And I guess, you know, as a manager and a business owner, that's, you know, something one has to keep up front and centre, I guess.
Absolutely. Overnight, you know, none of us signed up for this in wholesale or retail to be, you know, taking a bit of a risk coming to work. Incredibly, and it will be a theme of this. Yeah, the staff really have been amazing throughout all this. They're working harder than ever. They're working with what we've just described. Yeah. So, sorry, did I answer everything you wanted there?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In terms of, I mean, moving back to, we talked about the flower and the toilet roll anecdotes, which are recurring, but there has been a lot of talk on social media, on LinkedIn in particular, and led, I know, through things like Wholesale News, that there isn't enough stock coming into the channel. I'm picking up that you would concur with this view. I mean, is this your experience too?
Yeah, massively. Overnight, everything changed. So the on-trade closing is just enormous. And if you're a regular pub drinker, you know, if you go and have a pint of Carlsberg or Carlin every night at your local pub, your best substitute is going and replacing that at your convenience store. That means an awful lot of change overnight in terms of consumption and demand from our side. The other thing is grocery. I mean, wholesale pretty much lost grocery years ago. We try and have clung on to it as Parfetts. Overnight, grocery went through the roof. Morning goods went back to how it was 20 odd years ago. And I understand with suppliers to reshape those forecasts is really difficult. On the other hand, it is absolutely vital that they do suppliers. It's not just commercial. It is the right thing for the country that a convenience store has availability of these products. And kind of go back to what I was saying about the flatness of our structure, and obviously we're an SME. It feels it's hard for suppliers to adjust for this. I work positively with them. If you imagine if you were basing your forecast on first quarter is January, February, March. You know what I mean? So it's not actually showing the real figure that step changed overnight. Yeah, so the policy for me is work with them, but there is a fear. You know, I even coming in today, we've still got loads of empty shelves, but the supermarkets are boasting about availability. So it's an ongoing battle. It really is. Fortunately, my diary is emptied in a lot of other areas, so that feels like, you know, a very consuming part of the day for a lot of members of staff, operationally and in the buying department.
Would it be fair to say, I'm just trying to sort of pick up on this stock issue, is there an element of this where if, say, wholesale as a market previously got, I'm going to make the numbers up, but say 30% of lager production or one brand's production from a supplier because they allocated 30% market share, actually the market share of convenience has grown through this period. So you almost have to recast the numbers for what wholesale needs because its customers have moved. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is. And the hard part for them is, and that's why it's nice to be doing this, in a good week, my beer sales are 3 to 4 times as much. If I had it all in, it'd be even more, and I'm sure my competitors would be too. That's how much it's changed overnight. And yeah, that's a lot. They've just lost all their on-trade. You know, very profitable part of the most profitable part of their business. We're the best second bet for them, really. But you know, it's hard. The malts have a massive voice in all this. I try and have the most senior meetings I can, and I think the people I work with have that internal sell after us, if you know what I mean. So I can get the message to my contact, but it's then getting it to the MD and getting it to the demand planners, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you've mentioned, I'm thinking about Parfetts as an organisation. Certainly, the wholesalers that we've spoken to through this series of sound bites, there are some that have been really nimble in the way that they've been able to shift and adapt to, you know, what is a moving feast of a crisis. So what aspects of what Parfetts have done have you been particularly pleased with? If that, you know, where have you responded well to the stress test?
I think really early on, well, it doesn't, I think on the 28th of February, I was away with my brother-in-law, and I looked at this prior to this meeting. On the 28th of February, Italy had only had 21 deaths. It feels like a lifetime ago. At that point, you know, I was really started to take this seriously, and immediately the thing that you think, it just comes to staff, because you have to think worst case scenario. If you had 50% absenteeism, the government might want to keep us open, but most importantly, we've got to be able to keep ourselves open. And then you really strip the business back to how to keep the wheels on the bus of the core. You know, you need somebody in goods in, you need to put it on the shelf, you need fork truck drivers. Even now, all the RDAs now work in the branches. And so presenteeism has really shaped, for me, everything around this. And that's, you know, that's where I spoke to you about the bonuses, etc., and that we're trying to do the right things by the staff, and we have actually achieved. We're currently on 95% presenteeism, and the worst it got to was 92. So I would say that shaped all the major decisions that we've made. And if your staff feel okay and are on board, that's, you know, it's not part of the battle, it is the battle, to be quite frank.
Yeah, absolutely. So people first, but I guess as your data partner, I feel honor bound to ask you this question. How much has tech and data played through this process versus good old fashioned common sense? I mean, there's room for both in my book, but where has tech come in for you to help you as a business?
Big. So what was going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is happening now in this current 6 months to 1 year. So this meeting, for a start, is a really good example. People working from home, literally, Simon, you know him, he was going out having to buy laptops, making sure all the comms were working to get onto the core system, as well as people's website access. With Go Local, which is our retail club, Natalie has to send out a shopping list of availability each week to the members. You wouldn't have been able to do that years ago by email or WhatsApp. WhatsApp's been massive, so we have directors WhatsApp, so it used to sit there not doing a great deal. We communicate quite a lot on it, and I know that, you know, this idea came from the general managers. Massive for me, social media. So social media for our customers overnight has become, for the switched on ones, if people were half interested in it, they're very interested in it now, because it's a great way of communicating. So yeah, everything has come to life that should come to life. It's great that we can communicate. If a trunk of Foster's turns up, the RDAs will text it out, and customers will just arrive at the branch to get it. So, you know, in the future, these are going to be ways to do promotions and etc.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of the chaos that you're currently facing. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure people will be fascinated to hear firsthand what you've been going through. So my best to all of you, and continue to be safe and well, please.
Yeah. Thanks very much for your interest, and exactly the same for you.